been organised by Chevron Marine Lubricants. I'm Paul Gunton from Wake Media, and I'm your moderator for today's one-hour webinar. As its title suggests, we'll be looking at lube oils that meet MAN Energy Solutions Category 2 performance requirements for its latest two-stroke engine models. Our speakers today will be explaining the need for these new oils and outlining how Chevron's new 40BN lubricant has met the requirements that MAN Energy Solutions set. Now, before we get started, we have a few quick housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a link afterwards to watch back on demand. You can ask questions during the event by choosing the Q&A icon in the top right-hand corner of your screen. And you can see a screenshot of that now. We'll answer as many questions as we can during the Q&A session at the end, and if we run out of time, we'll come back to you afterwards via email. Also in the top right, you'll see a handouts tab where you can download and view documents and links that support today's event. And finally, at the end of the webinar, you'll be invited to answer a quick survey to provide feedback on today's event. And we'd appreciate it if you could take some time to do this, as it will help us plan future events. Today's presentations will be made by speakers from Chevron Marine Lubricants, engine OEM MAN Energy Solutions, and ship owners managers Cape Shipping. So let me introduce them to you. You'll be hearing from Simon Chung, Team Lead Global Marine Product and Technology Support at Chevron Marine Lubricants, Julia Svensson, Senior Research Engineer at MAN Energy Solutions, Luke Verbeek, Senior Engineer at Chevron Marine Lubricants, and Elias Soulis, Technical Manager at Cape Shipping. And as well as hearing their presentations, you'll have an opportunity to take part in 2 quick polls during the webinar, and I'll say more about those when we get to them. So I'll now invite Simon Chung, Team Lead Global Marine Product Technology Support, Chevron Marine Lubricants, to give us an overview of two-stroke lubrication. Simon.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Hope you could hear me. Good day, everyone. So thanks for taking the time to join us for this webinar today. I would like to take a few minutes just to kick things off with a brief overview of marine fuels and two-stroke engine lubrication. Then I'll pass it over to the experts. So, IMO 2020 implementation of sulfur cap on marine fuels to reduce harmful sulfur emissions was one of the biggest changes we've seen in the industry for years. Moving from the heavy fuel oil HFO with up to 3.5% sulfur content to very low sulfur fuel oil, VLSFO, with 0.5 max sulfur really changed the lubrication requirements. It was no longer necessary to have so much alkalinity or base number in the cylinder oil for neutralization of sulfuric acids formed from combustion. However, it is still critical to keep the engines clean, especially around the pistons with the lower base number marine cylinder lubricants. And the trend to lower base number marine cylinder lubricants will likely continue as the industry moves towards lower and zero carbon fuels such as biofuels, LNG, methanol, and ammonia to meet future IMO emissions regulation targets. We at Chevron Marine Lubricants intend to have solutions available for all marine fuels, engine technologies, and operating conditions for a lower carbon future. So around the same time as IMO 2020 implementation, MAN Energy Solutions introduced a new strategy to raise the performance level of cylinder oils by dividing them into 2 performance categories, 1 and 2. The category 1 oils are for MAN ES Mark 8 and earlier engines, while the category 2 oils are higher performance for their Mark 9 and later engines. So the higher base number cylinder lubricants, specifically 100 and 140 BN, were already able to meet the more demanding cleanliness requirements for MAN Category 2. However, these higher BN cylinder oils were not optimized for use with VLSFO and other lower sulfur fuels, and these contained higher amounts of sulfated ash, which are not really desirable because ultimately they end up somewhere in the exhaust or into the atmosphere. So lower BN oils at the time were not able to meet the MAN Category 2 requirements, and the use of 40 BN Cat 1 oil in combination with 100 BN Cat 2 oil was recommended for their MAN Mark 9 and later engines to keep these clean. Now, after several years of research and development and thousands of hours of field testing, 40 BN marine cylinder oils meeting MAN Cat 2 requirements are available. So these 40 BN Cat 2 oils will provide performance benefits as well as reducing complexity of operations. So you could use one single oil for your Mark 9 and later engines and do not have to use a combination of the 40 BN Cat 1 and 100 BN Cat 2 anymore. So this is just a end of a very quick overview of the lubricant requirements for very low sulfur fuel oil and in the future. And now I'll hand it back to Paul to continue the webinar. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Simon, for that explanation of the need for a review of lubrication for low sulfur fuels. Now, remember, if you'd like to ask Simon a question, use the Q&A tab now. I'll introduce our first poll. Now, each of our two polls today links to the presentation that will follow it. So they should give our speakers some valuable insights into how you think about their areas of interest. Now, our first poll is on your screen now and asks you which of the following 6 situations best describes your fleet's two-stroke engine regime. And you can see them on the screen now. First one, all our engines are MAN ES Mark 8 or below, and we have no lubrication concerns with VLSFO. All our engines are MAN ES Mark 8 or below, burning HSFO and paired with scrubbers. We have some MAN ES engines are Mark 9 and above and are alternating high and low BN lubes. We have some MAN ES engines are Mark 9 and above and are using only high BN lubes. We have some MAN ES engines are Mark 9 and above and are using Category 2 NOL approved 40 BN lubes, or 6, none of that applies to you. So we'll just leave that poll up just for a few more seconds. And see if you can vote now. Okay, we'll close the poll now. And have we got results there? While we're looking at that, I'll introduce our first guest speaker, Julia Svensson, Senior Research Engineer for MAN Energy Solutions. She's going to explain Category 2 40 BN cylinder oils and give us an overview of MAN Energy Solutions' recent lubrication guidelines. Now, I'm just looking at the poll here. I don't see a result on that poll. I'm just being shown it now. I beg your pardon. We have got a result up. I'm sorry for that confusion. So, Julia, would you like to offer a few comments on those results?
Yes, I just had to unmute myself. I cannot see any results, but I would assume that the listeners would have voted that they are either running on VLSFO and are using a normal 40 BN oil, or that they are alternating between high and low BN oil in order to keep the engine clean. And of course, some people or some vessels also are running on high sulfur fuel and then with a scrubber. And then I really hope that they are using 100 or 140 BN oil in order to protect their engines from corrosion. But I still don't see a poll result.
Okay. All right. Well, look, thanks. Thanks for that, Julia. We'll try and get the results available by the time we come to the Q&A. Well, in that case, I'll make way for you to give us your thoughts on Category 2 40 BN cylinder oils and your recent guidelines. So over to you, Julia.
Yes, thank you for that kind introduction. So MAN Solution is powering shipping. And the last couple of years, we have introduced engines running on LNG, ethane, methanol, and LPG. And of course, our engines is also running on the ULSFOs and VLSFOs. And we have also improved the design and the fuel consumption of our ME engines. And the number of running hours on in a low sulfur regime have increased significantly compared to the pre-2015 values, and it will just continue. And this, of course, calls for lubricants that are versatile enough in their formulation to cope with the changing fuel variants and engine designs. Cylinder oil is a necessity. And I would like to remind ourselves what the purposes of the cylinder oil are. The bullet points on the slides have been the same for many years, and they are still true today. And this can be summarized in 3 very simple words: lubricate, protect, and clean. MAN Energy Solutions unfortunately found that the lubricants aimed for low sulfur fuel applications were not able to prevent and manage deposit formation and cleaning in especially our newer engine types. And since free movements of the rings is so very important for efficient engine operation, we wanted to try to lift the performance of the cylinder oils. So in 2020, we introduced a strategy where the aim was to raise the performance of the cylinder oil by dividing them into 2 performance categories, Category 1 and Category 2. We did this in order to motivate the development and the usage of the cylinder oils that will fit the engines, the fuels, and the environmental requirements of the future. Category 2 is the higher performing level, and in order to receive this status, the oil should have excellent overall performance with a special focus on cleaning ability. The first oils to go through this evaluation process were the 100 and 140 BN cylinder oils for high sulfur fuels. Then the next lubricant grade to be developed and undergo extensive testing was the 40 BN, a 40 BN oil that performs equal or better than 100 BN oil in regards to cleaning, a Category 2 40 BN cylinder oil. So why do we need a high-performing 40 BN oil? Well, as I said, operational low sulfur fuels, VLSFO, LNG, methanol, and biofuel will be the most predominant in the coming years. And we have these highly fuel-efficient engines with higher pressures and temperatures that requires lubricants with matching performance. And service experience have shown that keeping focus on the cleanliness of the piston ring area is so important to secure an acceptable time between overhaul. And even though alternating between low and high BN is possible, truth be told, it is a bit annoying. Should we really need to use one oil to clean up after the other. Isn't it better to use one oil fit for the occasion? And yes, one could use 100 BN oil, and it was needed when we didn't have anything else that was available that could do the job. However, feeding large amount of calcium carbonate into an engine and increase the risk of acid deposits in and after the engine is not ideal. Engines operating on low sulfur fuel do not require the neutralization ability that 100 BN oil possesses. And well, deposit buildup in the NOx Tier 3 equipment like the EGR and SCR can drastically hamper the performance of the system, and reduction in the ash that could be fed in may decrease this risk. Emission reductions is high up on the agenda, and reducing the amount of ash in lubricants aimed for low sulfur fuel application where the neutralization is not needed or it's limited is an obvious step in the right direction. The fuels are changing, the engines are becoming more and more advanced, hence it's only natural for the lubricants to also change. So we issued a new service letter in, I think it was late August this year, service letter 2022-728. And this service letter presents the category 2 cylinder oils. And these have all shown excellent performance. We have the 140 BN oils, we have the 100 BN oils, and the 40 BN oils. The category 2 cylinders are suitable for all engine types and are recommended for MAN B&W two-stroke engines Mark 9 and higher, including our new mega engines, the low-pressure gas engines. Category 2 40 BN can also be very advantageous for engines of Mark 8 and lower numbers. And of course, cylinders for the 100 and 140 BN oils is used for high sulfur fuel applications, and the category 2 40 BN oils are used for operation on 0.5, 0.5, LNG, ethane, methanol, LPG, and biofuels. These oils are recommended for continuous use, so alternating between high and low, just in order to clean up. It's not necessary anymore when you have a category 2 40 BN. So choosing a lubricant for the engine has become easier. So when I say that category 2 40 BNs also can be applicable or suitable for all engines, I mean that also engines not with the newest designs can also benefit. For example, on this slide, we can see an 8.2 engine that might have become happier if it was lubricated differently. So once again, the fuels shown on this list can be used together with a category 2 40 BN oil. And once again, MAN Energy Solutions recommends using a 40 BN category 2 oil for our mega engines. So, cylinder lubrication. Most of you are probably having or working with engines that are running on VLSFO or ULSFO, and then you know that the focus points are deposit control, finding the right feed rate, and have controlled low wear. So what are your tools to do this? You should choose the right lubricant, of course, category 2 40 BN, or a category 1 cylinder oil if your engine are able to cope with that. You need to do scavenge port inspections, visual observation. How is your cylinder condition doing? Measure the piston ring coatings, and of course also install the correct piston rings for the application. Drain oil sampling, please do it. Look at the results, look at the iron, and then adjust the feed rate accordingly. For you that are using high sulfur fuel with a scrubber, you know, corrosion control is extremely important. But we, of course, also need a nice and clean engine, a cylinder condition. So using 100 or 140 BN oil, depending on what appetite your engine has, your operation pattern, and of course, depending on how high on sulfur level you go. You should also here, of course, you do scavenge port inspection and check how the cylinder condition is doing. Drain oil sampling and looking at the residual BN and iron is extremely important here, because then you need to adjust the feed rate in order to get the iron to a stable low rate. So work with the cylinder lubricant, with the drain oil, look at the results, and then act. And of course, use a high BN cylinder oil when you're using high sulfur fuel. And with that, I just would like to summarize. Cylinder oil is a necessity for a two-stroke engine. It needs to lubricate, it needs to protect, it needs to clean. And for those running on high sulfur fuel, neutralization is so important. The category 2 BN oils are available. They are stated in our new service letter. And the service letter is available online, and it's the 40 BN, the 100 BN, and the 140 BN. Category 2 cylinder oils are applicable for all engines and are recommended for Mark 9 and higher, including the Mega engine. And with that, I would like to say thank you. Take care of your engines, and over to you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Julia. I've now got the results of the earlier. So just before you go, Julia, I'm just going to tell you what the main results were.
Yes.
The highest feedback, 40% of our audience chose option 3, which was we have some MAN ES engines of Mark 9 and above and are alternating high and low BN lubes. So that was the largest proportion. And then in second place with 10% was option 1. All our engines are MAN ES Mark 8 or below, and we have no lubrication concerns with VLSFO. And quite a large number chose 6 not applicable. But yes, so do you want to just say anything about that top 40% are using Mark 9 and above and alternating between high and low BN lubes? So I guess they are the people that your new oil is really aimed at.
Yes, and can you hear me now?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, good, because the computer said it did. You didn't. So, well, I'm not surprised, because this webinar is aimed for these operators that have a Mark 9 engine and higher, and wanting to find a solution so they don't have to alternate anymore. Yeah, not surprised, and I think they should try the new category 2 40 BN oils and see what that could do for them.
Okay, all right, thanks, Julia. I think you've set out the thinking behind your requirements very clearly there, and I'm sure that will prompt some good questions from our audience. Now we'll come to our second poll, which links to our next presentation. And this time we're asking you which of the following 4 statements best describes your plans for future fuels, such as methanol, ethanol, hydrogen, and ammonia. And we're offering, I've not yet considered how I might use future fuels. I'm planning to use biofuels. I do not expect carbon-free fuels to be available in sufficient quantities. You've got some other plans, or it's not applicable to you. So vote now, and we'll give you the results. If we can't do that immediately, we will do it later. So we'll just leave that up for a few seconds, and we'll come back to you with the results if necessary. Okay, all right. Well, we'll come back to those results, and I'll be asking Luc Verbeek, Senior Engineer, Chevron Marine Lubricants, to respond to those when we get those results. But he's going to look beyond VLSFO and talk about Taro Ultra Advanced 40's lubrication role for future fuels. So I'll hand over to Luc now, and we look forward to hearing what you've got to say, Luc. So over to you. We can't hear you, Luc, at the moment. We'll just see if we can resolve Luc's technical issue there. Yeah. While we're sorting out Luc, I think we will move on to Elias Soulas. He's guest speaker. He's the technical manager at Cape Shipping SA. Cape Shipping supported Chevron Marine Lubricants during development of its Taro Ultra Advanced 40 cylinder oil, allowing the main engines in each of its vessels to be used for field trials and assessments. So Elias has some first-hand experience of both using the oil in practice and in the admin and other solutions involved in hosting a new product. So thank you, Elias, and you to talk about your experience of those.
Thank you, Paul. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elias Soulas. I'm the technical manager of Cape Shipping, and I'm happy to be here today to present you the experience from using the Taro Ultra Advanced 40. Cape Shipping, from the cooperation that we have with Chevron from beginning of 2020, after the new IMO 2020 fuel regulations, which led the shipping industry to shift to low sulfur fuel oils. It was a problem with the base number of 40 to 100 to BN 40. So the policy of Cape Shipping for the fleet vessels, main engine cylinder lubrication, which are running under the very low sulfur fuel oil after the 1st of January 2020, was to change over from BN 40 to BN 100 cylinder oils based on the onboard and ashore cylinder oil drain analysis. And the actual, of course, condition as revealed during the main engine's scavenge space and cylinder condition, and every port it was possible to be done by the crew. The average main engine running hours by using the BN 40 cylinder oil were from 192 to 240 running hours, means 8 to 10 days, and then changing over to a BN 100 oil for average 72 to 96 running hours, which means 3 to 4 days. Our experience from the beginning of 2020 is that the BN 40 cylinder oil, aiming for low sulfur fuel applications, it has not adequately been able alone to prevent and manage deposit formations and cleaning of the engine, especially for newer engine types from Mark 9 and higher. In the beginning of 2021, we have been approached by Chevron in order to participate with two vessels, the Cape Pioneer and the Cape Corfu, which are equipped with an 8G80 MEC 9.2 engine and a 6G60 MEC 9.5. For the trials of their new cylinder oil, this is the BN40-50, as the vessel's trading pattern from US to Europe, as also their main engine, were appropriate for the scope of the trials. The purpose, of course, of the field test were to document the performance of the oil, the test oil that time, and the aim of the field test was to confirm the MIN approval letter of the specific cylinder oil to be used as a BN40 Cat 2 oil. Chevron, during all this field test, monitoring the vessels before the field test, and carried out the engine inspections together with the liner measurements, as also oil and fuel analysis and data collection. Piston overhauls for the field test carried out 2 times. The first time was before the start of the test, and the second during the end of the test. Chevron, together with the Cape Shipping Technical Department and vessel's engine crew, were monitoring the test oil performance, the regular analysis, of course, of drip oil samples, as also visual inspection of the cylinder condition and the scavenge space and the general condition of the engine at each convenient port, at least every 250 running hours. In addition, Chevron's technical team attended for at least 2 formal intermediate inspections. They did also scavenge port inspections to document the cleanliness of the test engine. The sufficient quantity of the product, the test oil, was provided for the completion of the field test, and agreed the feed rate, the cylinder oil feed rate during the whole testing period to be the same as it was before the field test, and this, as you can see also the slide, kept to 0.9 grams per kilowatt hour. Regarding the backup option, in this case, the fallback option during the trials was to keep the Chevron Taro Ultra BN100, which was already on board before the start of the test in the vessel's second cylinder oil storage tank, in case that the test results were not satisfactory. During the 12 months of the field trials, and with more than 5,000 running hours for each vessel with the Taro Ultra Advanced 40 cylinder oil in use, we found that the results were satisfactory and there was no need to use the backup option of the remaining onboard Chevron Taro Ultra BN100 oil. Regarding the monitoring and the feedback during the trials, which is something very important for all of us. For the first vessel, the Cape Pioneer, the start of test, it was the piston overhauling that was done at Hamburg in September 2021. Once the Cape Pioneer main engine had about 25,000 running hours. Liners calibration carried out by Nimoy, and same used as the start of test reference point. Detailed inspection of the liner condition with photographs and also with microscopic inspection carried out that time. After the start of test inspection, the overhauled unit was running in according to MIN instructions, and once the running in period was completed, the engine was operated throughout the field test program on the agreed cylinder oil feed rate, which was 0.9 grams per kilowatt hour, as I said before. The level of the piston cleanliness during the intermediate inspection was at least the same to the one that we had with the intermediate use of Taro 40 and Taro 100. Piston rings wear and ring grooves clearances was measured, found without any abnormal wear or sign of corrosion. So the end of test carried out once the engine had around 27,558 running hours. It was a field test of about 2,541 running hours at Hamburg in March 2022. The engine inspected by MAN and Chevron representative, as also from our technical department, superintendent engineer. Full scavenge space port inspection, as also cylinder condition carried out in way of the top lands, the ring lands, the skirt, the liners, the piston number 3, which was overhauled at the start of test pull out again. And MAN had the chance to do a repeat inspection. Condition was excellent, without any deposits in the ring grooves and ring lands, and no deposits at the back sides of the rings, which is something very, very important. The liners found in excellent condition, without any abnormal findings, and the wave cutting also were clear and visible for all the liners, and especially for number 3. The average wear rate, of course, as measured, was excellent. It was very, very low. Similar procedure and test carried out with the second oil batch of BN40 Cat2 oil, with also good results. The field test started at Hamburg in March 2022 and completed recently at Houston, the beginning of September 2022, after 2,359 testing oil running hours. During these hours, 2 intermediate inspections carried out, also with very good results. For the case of the Cape Corfu, similar testing procedure and field tests, as per the relevant table showing in the slide, followed also for this vessel, and also the main engine inspected by the OEM and Chevron, of course, and also Nimoy carried out as necessary for scanning, 3D scanning of the liners. The condition during the end of test inspection was excellent, without any deposits again, not at the ring grooves, not at the ring lands, and no deposits at the backside of the rings. The cylinder liners was in excellent condition, and also we didn't see any abnormal findings or any wear reads. Wave cutting of the liners was visible and clear, and the average wear rate again was excellent. I think it is the time to show you, because one picture is 1,000 words, few photos from the end of test inspections, which carried out both to Cape Pioneer main engine, but also to Cape Corfu. As you will see, the condition of the engine is very clean. The piston lands, also the rings, liners, grooves are free from any carbon deposit. And for us, it was nice to see that the specific cylinder oil worked well, and we were fully satisfied. About the benefits are obvious by using this new product, as avoid to change over between low and high BN cylinder oils, and also avoid the use of double cylinder oil storage and daily service tanks. The single use of one BN40 Cat2 oil, as it is the Taro Ultra Advanced 40, makes cylinder oil lubrication easier, less complicated for the engine crew, and of course, less possibilities to have a human error during the changeover from the one oil to the other oil. Our experience, it is that the engine cleanliness and the cylinder oil detergency capability was same or even better when using only the Taro Ultra Advanced 40, without switching from the higher to the lower BN. Of course, it is important to state that the cost comparison and the complexity of each option have to be taken into account when comparing the expected benefits with the resulting OPEX in each vessel, in each case, and in each, let's say, company. Thank you very much, Paul. I finished my presentation.
Thanks for that, Elias. I now have results of the poll that we put up earlier, and I will just run through those. You'll recall that we were asking about your plans for future fuels, such as methanol, ethanol, hydrogen, and ammonia. And 32% of you, that's the highest single proportion, have not yet considered how you might use future fuels. Option 2, I'm planning to use biofuels. 17% of you are in that situation. 23% don't expect carbon-free fuels to be available in sufficient quantities. 11% of you have other plans, and for 17% of you, the question is not applicable. Now, I believe that we are still having difficulties contacting Luc Verbeek. So we're going to move on to the Q&A for now, and if we get contact with Luc, we will come back to that. So I'm going to stick with you, Elias, for now, and I'm going to ask. You were talking a little bit about benefits, but I'm wondering whether you saw any spin-off benefits during the test. For example, did you see any changes in fuel consumption?
Paul, we didn't see any changes for the fuel consumption. I think that the cylinder lubrication has nothing to do with the consumption in this case. But for sure, we saw that the engines are very clean. Both engines are very clean. The detergency capability of the new product is excellent. The performance is excellent. But we didn't see any difference to the fuel oil consumption. Might be so small, the difference, that it was not possible to be captured, let's say. This is the reason, because I don't expect any big differences for the fuel oil consumption.
Okay, thanks for that, Luc. Now, I believe that Simon Chung is going to run through Luc's presentation. So very pleased to welcome Simon back onto the call.
Unless you hear me, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine, okay. Simon. So yes,
if
you could run through Luc's presentation, that would be good. Thank you.
Okay, no, I think that's Luc. So
yes.
Yeah, so Luc is online now, so I think he's going to.
I'm afraid I won't have video for you, but I think you saw my face at start. But if you can hear me, I'm already very pleased.
Okay, thanks, Luc. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay. Did you have any comments on the poll, or shall we just start off?
I think just start, Luc, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm sorry for all the technical issues, which is not nice if you're on a technical team, but I'm glad Murphy allowed us a way in. So thank you, Paul, for your kind introduction. I would say let's kick off with some really excited news where we are really proud of. So Chevron has now passed and received the no ejection letter for the Taro Ultra Advanced 40, which is our new Category 2 40BN oil. And this oil is now also commercially available. So this is a very high performing oil. And we believe that is the right path on the lubrication to the future. Taro Ultra Advanced 40 is not the first Category 2 oil we have. As Julia also explained, there are like 100, 140, and 40BN oils now. So to place that a little bit against the other products out there on the market, I would say that basically if you look at the Category 2 oils approved now, they are covering the whole the whole slate of fuels from very low sulfur up to the highest sulfurs on the market. And the Taro Ultra Advanced now is also approved for multiple fuels. I'll come back to that a bit later. The Taro Ultra 70 and 40, as you see, they are still out there and they are still available. They are Category 1 oils classified by MEN, which means you can use them basically for the older design engines. But as also Julia kind of showed in one of her slides, many older engines will also benefit of using a category 2 oil. So definitely, when your engine is not looking completely clean, we would definitely still recommend you to consider a category 2 oil for even the Mark 8 and below engines. Before we actually commercialized the product, there was a long path before that. So we did extensive laboratory testing, including marine engine testing under laboratory conditions. And we tested this product on multiple applications and with multiple customers. Cape Shipping is one of them. As Mr. Soulis is a speaker today, really have to say we worked very nice with them. Cape Shipping is operating a fleet with very modern engines, and they have a very high operational standard, which makes them a perfect partner for us to work with. But of course, in the whole program, we worked also very close with MEN Energy Solutions, because it's the partnership you need to achieve such a result. The formulation is now recommended by MEN not only for the very low sulfur fuel oil and the ultra low sulfur fuel oils. It also is the recommended product now for LNG and even methanol, ethane, and LPG. And we are further evaluating our options here to have this product being used even with more fuels. Last but not least, on the right side on the box, you see that we also use our .fast service, which is commercially available. We also apply that for our fuel tests when we run oil performance testing, because doing drain oil analysis is extremely important, and I would hope that you do that also for your fleet. But when doing lubricant performance analysis, we have to do more than just that. We do the port inspections, which you probably also do, but we pull pistons at the beginning and at the end of testing. And we, in this case, we have done also very detailed monitoring by 3D laser scanning and documenting of the combustion chamber. Looking at the requirements for the MEN category 2 oils, I brought you here an example of one of the fuel tests. We've done multiple and in multiple applications, and they give all very similar results. So there are three main performance areas that we target on. The first area is on the right side, is on the ring lands. So the expectation is that your ring lands remain clean when your engine is in a good operating condition. Besides that, and that's why it's also quite important we pull pistons, we expect to have the ring grooves clean, free of deposits, and preferably also the whole ring end, so behind the piston rings, to have no deposits at all. And as you can see in the pictures, we actually met all that. We can say we had a good pass from MEN on this one. We can definitely say that the new Taro Ultra Advanced 40 is comparable or even supersedes the 100 BN performance that we had in the same application. So that's definitely the good news. So as I mentioned earlier, historically when testing, we pull the piston or a second one before and after testing, in some occasions with split loop and running against the reference oil. However, the marine world is changing very rapidly, and so do the engine designs, so do the fuel sources, so do the composition of the marine fuels. So therefore, it is not as easy anymore to evaluate what is the impact of the oil versus all the other parameters. Therefore, we expanded our whole testing program, and besides doing the traditional port inspections and piston pulls and looking at that, we are also doing this 3D laser scanning and documentation by photographs of the whole liner surface in every direction and the combustion chamber. And we do this not from the test unit, but we do that from the whole engine, because we're trying to get results quicker, doing shorter tests. But that also means that the running in period when you pull a piston has to be taken into account, which can also take like 1,000 or 2,000 hours. So this gives us a much better view on how the whole engine operation is impacted by the choice of the lubricant, and not just the test units. So today, we are definitely very proud that we are one of the first to launch a 40BN Category 2 oil that has the full endorsement from MENES. I have to say it was a long and challenging path. However, I do believe that we met all the criteria, and I think with all the things we have been showing you, I think you should be convinced as well. But having said that, we are not there yet towards the future. There are a lot of new fuels coming our way. There are a lot of biofuels, there's hydrogen, methanol, ammonia, and others coming our way. And Chevron will work on solutions for that by the time you want to use these oils. Methanols are out there already in the market, and we have already an approved solution, but many of the others will have to be dealt with in the future. And rest assured, we are working on solutions, and we are very confident that we will be able to provide you a lubricant for the choice that you make going further. And I think with these words, I want to thank you for your attention and hope you enjoyed. And my apologies again for the technical issues.
Okay, thanks, Luke. I think it's good to know that Taro Ultra Advanced 40 will be suitable for other low sulfur fuels as well as VLSFO. Now we're going to come back to Q&A, and in fact, Luke, I'm just going to start with just a quick one to you, and it's really because at the moment you do have a Taro Ultra 40 lube oil in your portfolio, and I think it'd be worth clarifying whether the Advanced 40 is going to replace that, or whether both lubes will have a role going forward.
Well, at this moment, both will stay on the market. I think going forward, there is a possibility that one remains, but that's actually more a question for Simon, I have to say, because he's the product line manager. But I would say at this moment, definitely they will stay both on the market.
Okay. All right. A question coming from the audience for Julia, and he says, we have seen that in the most of the vessels running with VLSFO, 25 to 40% remaining base number during lab analysis is not enough for keeping a good cylinder condition. This is irrespective of if it's only 100 BN or alternating between high and low BN oils. What's your feedback? Will this be a reality also with BN 40 Category 2 oils? What's your thoughts on that, Julia?
Well, when it comes to the Category 2 40BN oils, it's important to understand that when they were developed, they were tested against 100 BN Category 2 oil also. So, and using the same feed rate, so 40 BN and 100 BN, the same feed rate, the same engine, split lubrication. We focused mostly on the iron, and the iron was very similar. And when it comes to the residual BN, of course, some BN is of course used by the engine, but it was satisfactorily for both the Category 2 40BN and the 100 BN. So a 20% or 45%, or it's difficult to say a percentage number, but it is important not to we cannot say any percentage now, but you should focus on the iron here and how the engine look like. And service experience have to show if you really need to have a percentage value on this. But it's important to understand that we have compared it against 100 BN. And if it was not up on par or better, it was a fail.
Okay.
And so they are severely tested.
Okay, thank you, Julia. I've got a question now for Elias. What type of piston rings were used in the Cape Pioneer trial? Were they 3-ring gas type cermet coated or 4-ring configuration?
The original configuration, the one engine built in Korea from Hyundai, the one which is fitted on Cape Pioneer, and the other one, the 6G60, built in China from Hudong, and both configurations was with 3 piston rings and were cermet type, cermet coated.
Okay, thanks for that. Luke, do you want to come in and comment on that at all?
Yeah, I think you hear me again. So
yes, indeed.
A little bit on the feed rate and the drainal analysis question bit out there. So basically, it's a few years ago, actually, we could run all the engines at the minimum feed rate of like 0.6 gram per kilowatt hour. Right? But today, every engine has its own appetite for lubrication, and for some engines it's 0.8, and some engines it's 0.9, and some it's 0.6. So we tested Taro Ultra Advanced at the lowest feed rate on 0.6 on some engines, but in the example we shown, it was indeed 0.9. And the reason we did that is that because that was the point where we needed alternation with 100 BN. So there was already a falling up. The engine was getting dirty, running a category 40 BN oil only. So we needed 100 BN to do that. So it was decided with MEN to remain at the same feed rate because we reached already the point where you could make a difference with the oil. But this is not the only tests we have run. We have run multiple tests. Some of them, as Julia says, with split loop lubrication and comparing to 100 BN. These were run at really low feed rates from 0.6.
Okay, thanks for that. Julia, do you want to comment on feed rates? There was a question about feed rates when using BN 40 category 2.
Luke are completely correct. Each engine has its optimal feed rate. It depends on design, operation pattern, how the maintenance of the engine and so forth. We when starting with a new lubricant and so forth, we think one should do de-risking. You start with a higher feed rate, and then you monitor the engine condition, take your drainal sample, scavenge port inspection, and then you gradually go lower. At this particular engine or this test, we chose 0.9 because this is where the engine we wanted to be at with this particular engine, with this particular operation pattern and so forth. But then, of course, and also a testing scenario has to be really stable. But then, of course, if the operator wants to try to decrease the feed rates, it's of course possible, but it should be in a nice controlled way. And then of course the aim is to have a low good feed rate.
Okay, thanks, Julia. Next question, I guess, is really for Simon. Is Taro Ultra Advanced 40 available worldwide in all ports?
Yes, thanks for the question. Yes, we made the first delivery of Taro Ultra Advanced 40 back in August in Germany. The product is now available in bulk and other SKUs across Europe, so including AIA, so the Amsterdam, Antwerp, and Rotterdam ports, and also in Singapore and Malaysia. And then it will be available in South Korea within the next few weeks, and the product is also available for new builds in the across China, Japan, and Korea as well. We'll be looking to expand the availability of the product in other regions, including Americas and Middle East, over the next couple of months.
Okay, thanks for that. We're getting a bit tight on time, so maybe we'll make this the last question, and I'm addressing this to Luke. Have you tested Taro Ultra Advanced 40 on any of the fuels that you mentioned in your last slide?
There is definitely more test work ongoing as we speak.
Okay.
And the product looks very fine in these applications so far.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. We've just about run out of our allotted hour. So I'm just going to bring the Q&A to a close. But as I mentioned at the start, we will be providing answers to all the questions we've not had time to tackle today. I think these are important times for engine lubrication as we get used to a new era of low sulfur fuels. And I'm sure you found this a very interesting and useful hour. But before we close, I'd like to thank our speakers, Simon Chung, Team Lead Global Marine Product and Technology Support at Chevron Marine Lubricants, and Luke Verbeek, Senior Engineer at Chevron Marine Lubricants, but especially our guest speakers, Julia Svensson, Senior Research Engineer, MAN Energy Solutions, and Elias Sulis, Technical Manager of Cape Shipping SA. I mentioned at the start that you'll be able to respond to a short feedback question at the end of this webinar, and that will appear on your screens once we close. And if you want to watch this webinar again, it will be on Chevron Marine Lubricants website in the next couple of days. So thank you for joining us today, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.